Hello, Internet. It's Jenn T. Grace here, founder of Publish Your Purpose Press, and I am here for day number 12, tip number 12 of the 30-day writing challenge. So once again, a reminder, over the next 30 days, or we are getting to the middle of these 30 days, we are working on writing 1,100 words per day to equal a 33,000 word manuscript. So today's tip number 12, is write where you feel inspired. One of the things I had mentioned in yesterday's tip that I had thought I covered in a previous one, but I went back and looked and realized I did not, was about the writing process not necessarily being a linear process. Oftentimes when we think about sitting down and writing a book, we're thinking about writing in the order in which we have an outline. So we're thinking about writing chapter 1 and then chapter 2, chapter 3, and so on and so forth. Ultimately, though, what that can do is it can really stop your creativity, and it can really make you feel stuck when you're not inspired to write what you quote unquote feel like you should be writing right now. So if you can just take a step back and think about writing where you feel inspired, that alone will help you get words on paper so much faster because you're writing about something you feel like writing about. So rather than sitting there and painfully thinking about how do I write chapter 1 right now when I don't really feel like talking about the contents of chapter 1, write about the contents of chapter 4 if that's where you're feeling called to write in that moment. I mention this a lot with all of the authors I work with, is don't think about it as a linear, you must start with A, you must end with Z process in terms of the writing. There are so many strategies that you can employ after the fact in terms of bridging the thoughts together. So if you think about every chapter that you're writing, think about writing it as a standalone chapter, that it doesn't, maybe thinking about it as maybe a white paper or a long form blog post or some other type of content piece, and not think about it in the structure of a book and just write about that particular thing in that very narrow lane of whatever the contents might be for chapter 4. If you can think about it from that perspective, later in the process, before you start the editing process, but much later, you can then look at, okay, I have this piece of content that's 5, I have this piece of content that's chapter 6. How do I bridge the two of those together? That's something that is relatively easy to do once you have all the content that you are working with on paper to begin with.